Well, you might have noticed from my last video, those of you with a careful eye, that the engine is due for its service. It's a couple of hours over, but that won't do it any harm. I've had a go at getting out here to do it on 2 occasions, and each time it's rained. To be honest, this time doesn't look like it's going to be much different, but let's give it a go and see how far we can get.
I've gathered together everything I'll need for today's service. There's plenty of oil, my toolbox of spanners, an oil filter wrench, a 19mm spanner and a selection of filters including oil, air and fuel, though I don't think I'll be using the fuel ones today. Lastly, there's my trusty socket set.
The first thing's going to be to lift the engine board. Oh, well, that's the engine board up out of the way. It's a heavy old thing. Well, the first thing I notice is there's quite a lot of water in the engine bay. This isn't unusual, and all I need to do is hit the bilge pump to pump it away, and then just re-grease the stern gland.
As you can see, the water I'm discharging into the canal is clean and free from any oil. It's important not to pollute the waterways. This device holds the grease that is dispensed onto the stern gland. It's nearly empty, so now's the time to refill it. First of all, I have to unscrew it back up to its maximum capacity. I'm using the correct grease for the job, but it's a mucky old business. There, the dispenser is full again and can be screwed back into its place. The pipe that you can see leads down to the stern gland itself. Just give that a bit of a wipe.
There we go, good as new.
Now I can feed some grease down to the stern gland.
There we are, it's just a question of giving that a couple of turns until the drips stop.
So, on with the service, and the first thing I'll do is take the oil filler cap off. Then I open the valve on the manual oil pump and place a suitable container underneath its spout. Pumping out the oil with this hand pump is truly a tedious process. One of these days I'm going to have to fit an electric pump, I really am. The pump continues to splash and gurgle, but eventually all of the old oil is out. I carefully pour the used oil into an old container ready for disposal. Amazingly, CRT don't provide any such disposal facilities, so I'll need to take it in the car to a suitable recycling centre. Now I can remove the oil filter. I start by loosening it off with the oil filter wrench. Then I take an old plastic bag and put it around the oil filter while I unscrew it.
Not cool, sir.
It's always a good idea to put a smear of oil around the seal of the new filter. It'll ensure it goes on smoothly without binding, and it'll be easier to remove. I do the new filter up as tightly as I can by hand. I use a funnel to ensure I don't spill any oil into the bilge. Now I can pour in the new oil. Look how light and clean it is. I check the dipstick to ensure the oil is at the correct level, but you can find out how much oil your engine needs by checking the service manual. Now all I have to do is replace the oil filler cap. Up next is the air filter, and this is a nice easy job. After unscrewing the cover, I pull the filter out. That's not looking too bad. But the new one looks a whole lot better. It just needs seating correctly, like so. Then just twist the cover back on. Job done. Now for my least favourite job, the gearbox oil. I put an old saucepan that I keep specially underneath in readiness to catch the oil. I put the correct size socket onto a wrench and undo the drain nut. There it is. With the oil now drained, I undo the filler nut using a 19mm spanner. The nut has a dipstick attached to it, with markings for the oil level.
I just wanted to say something about this dipstick. It's a dipstick on the PRM 150 gearbox. It's got two little lines on it, and the way you use this is you fill it with the correct amount of oil, the gearbox that is, and then you put this dipstick in to see where the oil level is, obviously. But what you have to do is you have to make sure that this is screwed up all the way, so it's a bit of a pain. You have to put the dipstick in, screw it up tightly all the way. There should actually be a washer on here, which you're supposed to include. I've lost my washer, I don't know where that went. And then that will tell you, the correct level for your oil. I forget which one of the two marks it's supposed to be at off the top of my head now. I think it's the top one, but I'm going to go and check and let you know that in a minute. But the trick here is when you put clean oil in, and the oil's always pretty clean in this gearbox anyway, it doesn't get black like engine oil. The trick here is it's really hard to see where the oil is, so I use a bit of paper. We'll try that in a minute and see what happens, but I'm just going to go and check about this dipstick because I can never remember. Right, I've just checked, and it's 1.4 litres of oil to fill the gearbox, and that should take you to the top mark on this dipstick when the dipstick's screwed in all the way on its thread.
Once again, I use the funnel to ensure the new oil goes in without making a mess.
Just to add, it's better to put in a little bit of oil at a time and build up to that 1.4 litres, checking it 2 or 3 times with a dipstick if necessary, rather than going over, because if you go over, you've got to undo the nut at the bottom of the gearbox again, and that'll get messy.
So, fill, check and repeat as necessary. Here, I'm trying to show how to check the oil level of the dipstick by laying it onto a piece of paper. It is quite difficult to see, but this does look about right to me. I tighten the filler nut using a spanner once I'm happy that the oil level is correct.
Well, all that's left to do is clean up the tools, check everything over in the engine bay, recheck the levels, then I can fire it up and see how things are. I'll also have a look at the belts and various other bits and pieces. Just one more little thing I wanted to show you. As I said, I'll be checking a couple of extra things on the engine before I put everything away and put the hatch back on. I've got the drive belt here. It's well, there's a couple of drive belts on the engine. One drives one alternator, one drives another. and what you do is you just press them in the middle with your finger, and they should move about sort of that much, not too much at all. If they've got a lot of movement in them, you'll need to tighten up the tensioner. I mean, that's a thing for another day. And obviously if they're too tight, that can cause extra stress on the pulleys, and then you can have problems there as well. This one feels fine. Just getting down further to another one. That's fine. I'm also just checking to make sure they're not cracked or anything like that, or too frayed. These look pretty good, and I've just had a look over the engine, just generally to see, you know, make sure there's nothing weeping out of any pipes. You know, I've been climbing around in here and that, so everything looks all right, is what I'm saying. Well, if you can hear me over this bin, the engine's fine, everything looks happy, sounds happy, and I think it's time to go in for a well-earned brew. It's just about to rain as it happens. What I'll do, before I set off tomorrow, I'll just pop the hatch up and have a quick look round, make sure everything's still okay. Job done, I reckon. I can't get back on, and I can't pull the boat over. That lock was not the easiest of locks, let's put it that way.